For over a decade, many who grew up watching Star Trek believed that it was a series of exploration and teamwork, and of course the TV series is one of its kind. But the narrative of teamwork on TV was very much different from the realities on the set. The sabotage, the fistfights, and feuds weren't just part of the script as you saw on TV, they were happening on set. These were the words of Captain Kirk, William Shatner, when he was asked what went down on Star Trek set. There were lots of times that fights broke out because of the intensity of the work to bring the best view on television to the viewers. And behind every fight, every insult, and every intense moment, there was William Shatner, Captain Kirk. How did William Shatner become the most hated man on set, and how did it affect Star Trek? William Shatner's story began on March 22, 1931, in Montreal, Canada, in the middle of a record-breaking snowstorm. The roads were so bad that his mother couldn't get to the hospital, so she gave birth to him at home. It's almost like his life was destined to start with a dramatic twist. From a young age, Shatner showed he had a talent for performing. At just 8 years old, he joined an acting school run by a well-known Canadian actress. By the time he was 10, he was already working as a professional actor. His first role was on a CBC radio show called The Magic Flute. Not long after that, he played Tom Sawyer in a local theater production, where people praised him for his confidence and charm on stage, saying he performed far beyond his years. In 1948, Shatner started studying at McGill University. He wasn't exactly a model student. He later admitted that he skipped more classes than he attended. But where he struggled in academics, he shined in the theater. In 1950, he wrote and acted in a student play that became a big hit. It even caught the attention of CBC, where Shatner made his first TV appearance. By 1956, Shatner decided to take a leap of faith. He moved to New York City to try acting full-time. His first big opportunity came when he landed a role in a Broadway play called Tamburlaine the Great. It only ran for 20 performances before closing, but for Shatner, it was a major step forward. After Broadway, Shatner began appearing in TV shows. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, he was everywhere, starring in episodes of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, The Defenders, and The Outer Limits. But his work on The Twilight Zone really stood out. In 1960, he played a man obsessed with a fortune-telling machine in an episode called Nick of Time. Then, in 1963, he starred in Nightmare at 20,000 feet, playing a passenger convinced there's a creature on the wing of the airplane. These roles showed Shatner's talent for playing characters on the edge of a breakdown. That same year, Shatner almost became the lead of a very different TV show. He starred as Alexander the Great in a pilot about the famous conqueror. Adam West, who later became TV's Batman, was also part of the cast. The pilot focused on Alexander leading his army into battle against the Persians, but the network decided not to pick up the show, and it wasn't released until 1968 as a TV movie. If the series had been greenlit, Shatner's career might have taken a completely different direction, one that might never have included Star Trek. In 1966, Shatner became Captain Kirk, but the journey to that role wasn't smooth. Originally, Star Trek had a different captain. Jeffrey Hunter starred as Captain Pike in the first pilot, The Cage. NBC rejected it, calling it too slow and intellectual. However, instead of canceling the project, they did something rare. They ordered a second pilot. This gave Shatner his chance. At the time, Shatner was working on other projects in New York when he got a call to watch the rejected pilot. He admired its production quality but thought the actors were too serious. Soon after, Jeffrey Hunter decided not to return, officially because he wanted to focus on movies, though Shatner later hinted there might have been more to the story. With Hunter stepping away, the role of the captain was wide open, and Shatner stepped in to make it his own. William Shatner wanted Captain Kirk to stand out. He didn't want Kirk to be a stiff, formal leader. Instead, he imagined him as someone curious and adventurous, excited to explore the unknown. At the same time, Kirk needed to be approachable, like a leader who could casually say, "Hey George, turn left," instead of barking strict commands. This mix of confidence and friendliness made Kirk feel real and easy for audiences to connect with. To shape Kirk's character, Shatner drew inspiration from two sources. One was Horatio Hornblower, a brave and clever naval hero. The other was Alexander the Great, a role Shatner had played in a TV project 2 years earlier. He brought some of Alexander's boldness to Kirk. Shatner also added humor to the character, believing the first Star Trek pilot was too serious. This humor made Kirk more human. He could laugh, crack jokes, and build strong bonds with his crew. It was this combination of strength, wit, and warmth that made Kirk so beloved. One of Shatner's toughest challenges came early in the series during an episode where Kirk's personality split into good and evil halves. He had to show both sides of Kirk's inner conflict, revealing the character's depth. During this episode, Leonard Nimoy, who played Spock, came up with the now famous Vulcan neck pinch, which became one of Spock's iconic moves. Shatner and Nimoy often worked together to rewrite scripts. While their changes led to some great moments, they also created tension. During the 1967 episode The Trouble with Tribbles, they spent 14 hours reworking dialogue for Kirk and Spock, cutting lines for other characters. This upset the writer, David Gerrold, and by the third season, the rest of the cast jokingly called the show the Shatner-Nimoy Show. But the tension wasn't always funny. In 1968, while filming The Paradise Syndrome, Shatner and Nimoy had a heated argument with the director. Shatner wanted Kirk's memory loss scene to be dramatic and emotional, while Nimoy thought it should be more subtle. The disagreement delayed filming for hours until producer Gene Roddenberry stepped in to mediate. Shatner's strong personality sometimes caused friction on set. During the filming of The Man Trap in 1966, he thought Nimoy was getting too much attention. To make a point, Shatner deliberately walked into Nimoy's camera shots, 17 times in total. This caused so many retakes that Nimoy threatened to walk off the set. There were also moments of collaboration and bravery. In 1968, during the filming of Plato's Stepchildren, Kirk and Uhura shared what is often called the first interracial kiss on American TV. Shatner worried about how viewers might react and suggested filming a version without the kiss. But Nichelle Nichols, who played Uhura, believed the kiss was important. To ensure it stayed, she and Shatner intentionally ruined every take without it, leaving the studio no choice but to use the real kiss. That moment became a landmark in TV history. Filming Star Trek was exhausting for everyone. Days often stretched to 16 hours or more. The toughest was during the 1967 episode The Doomsday Machine, when the cast and crew worked 22 hours straight to finish filming. For Shatner, days typically started at 5:30 a.m. for makeup and often ended after midnight. The long hours on set eventually took their toll on Shatner. On October 3, 1968, while filming The Tholian Web, after working 18 hours straight, he had a meltdown. Frustrated, he threw his script and refused to continue unless he was given a break. This led to a new rule requiring rest periods for the cast. However, the grueling schedule didn't really improve. The strain from Star Trek had a serious impact on Shatner's personal life. His first marriage to Gloria Rand broke down during the series. In a 2018 interview, Shatner admitted that over the 3 years of filming, he missed 217 family dinners, including his daughter Leslie's 5th birthday in 1968. He even skipped Christmas Day in 1967 to reshoot scenes for The Gamesters of Triskelion. Gloria became increasingly frustrated, especially when Shatner missed their daughter Elizabeth's school play on April 12, 1968, because of yet another rewrite session with Nimoy. By June 1969, shortly after the show ended, Gloria filed for divorce, citing his constant absences and emotional distance. Shatner later expressed regret for missing so much time with his family, including 47 weekends with his children during those years. When Star Trek ended in 1969, Shatner's life completely changed. While the show had a small but loyal fan base, it wasn't enough to keep it going. After the cancellation, Shatner struggled to find acting work. People had trouble seeing him as anyone other than Captain Kirk, making it nearly impossible for him to land new roles. Just a few years earlier, he was seen as a rising star, even being compared to Marlon Brando. Now, he was out of work and unsure of his future. In the early 1970s, things worsened. Shatner had to take whatever roles he could find, even if they were in low-budget films that did nothing to help his career. He appeared in movies like Big Bad Mama, The Devil's Rain, and Kingdom of the Spiders. These weren't the roles he wanted, but he needed the money. People started seeing him as just a sci-fi and horror actor, which made it even harder to escape the typecasting that had followed him since Star Trek. With no steady income, he struggled to support his 3 daughters, who lived with their mother in Beverly Hills. Shatner was so broke that he ended up living in a camper in the San Fernando Valley. He later referred to this period of his life simply as that period, because it was so difficult to talk about. The once famous actor had become homeless, doing whatever he could to make ends meet. Shatner took any job he could get, even if it was humiliating. He'd appear at small parties or events just to earn a few dollars. One Christmas, he couldn't afford presents for his daughters, so he wrapped up items he already owned, like his Star Trek phaser, and gave them as gifts. It was a tough and humbling time, but Shatner never gave up. Then, in 1979, everything changed. Star Trek was revived as a film, and Shatner returned as Captain Kirk. With a $35 million budget, the movie was one of the most expensive films ever made at the time. Originally, Paramount had planned a new Star Trek TV show, but after Star Wars became a massive hit in 1977, they decided to turn it into a movie instead. At first, Shatner wasn't sure about returning, but a big paycheck and some control over the script convinced him to come back. At 48 years old, he worked hard to get in shape, losing 25 pounds through strict dieting and exercise. However, filming wasn't easy. The script kept changing, sometimes even on the same day that scenes were being shot. Shatner often clashed with the writers and director, pushing for ideas like a daring space jump for Kirk. Unfortunately, due to budget and safety concerns, the idea didn't make it into the final film. Despite the struggles, Star Trek the Motion Picture premiered in December 1979 to great fan excitement. Shatner's performance as Captain Kirk was praised for staying true to the character while showing more maturity. The film made $139 million worldwide, which was decent, but not a runaway hit. The next film, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, 1982, had a smaller budget, but became a massive success, earning $95.8 million and being hailed as one of the best in the series. The Star Trek films grew into a huge franchise with 13 films released between 1979 and 2016. Beyond ticket sales, Star Trek influenced real-world technology and popular culture, with iconic phrases like, "Beam me up, Scotty," and "Live long and prosper," becoming part of everyday life. However, Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, 1989, brought major challenges. Shatner directed the film and wanted the crew of the Enterprise to embark on a deep, meaningful journey to search for God. The studio disagreed with his vision, forcing changes. Years later, Shatner admitted he wasn't ready for such a big project, calling it a failure that stayed with him for decades. The movie's problems began early. Shatner had envisioned a grand finale with giant rock creatures, but the expensive effects were cut due to budget constraints. The special effects team, unable to match the quality of past films, didn't deliver the expected results. Additionally, tensions on set arose, particularly between Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, as Shatner felt overshadowed by Spock's popularity. The movie, costing $33 million to make, only earned $63 million worldwide, far from the success of its predecessors. Shatner's career took an unexpected turn in 1982 when he starred in the police drama T.J. Hooker, portraying a tough police sergeant. At first, Shatner didn't want the role and turned it down 3 times, but the show's creator rewrote the pilot to suit him, and Shatner eventually agreed. The show became a hit, drawing up to 20 million viewers per week. Shatner's dedication to authenticity, including performing his own stunts, added to the show's appeal. He was injured several times, including breaking a rib and sustaining a concussion. The show also introduced Heather Locklear in the 2nd season, and Shatner mentored her as her career skyrocketed. T.J. Hooker became a cultural phenomenon, leading to action figures, a board game, and even a comic book. In 1997, Shatner took on a completely different role as the face of Priceline.com. Initially a 6-week deal, Shatner's quirky character, the Negotiator, became wildly popular. Shatner's partnership with Priceline lasted 22 years. At one point, he opted for payment in stock instead of cash, which skyrocketed in value, reportedly reaching $600 million. Though Shatner has never confirmed whether he sold his shares, it added to his reputation for business savvy. The Priceline commercials became famous for their humor, with one 2012 ad shocking viewers by having Shatner's character die in a bus explosion, a concept inspired by a dream Shatner had. Shatner's role as Denny Crane on Boston Legal, 2004 to 2008, marked a major TV comeback. Initially reluctant, Shatner was convinced by the show's creator to take the role, which was tailored specifically for him. Denny Crane was a larger-than-life character, known for his eccentricities and his catchphrase. Shatner improvised many of the character's funniest moments, and the writers left space in the script for his improvisations. A key element of the show's success was the friendship between Denny Crane and Alan Shore, played by James Spader, whose late-night balcony conversations with cigars and scotch became a signature part of the series. Shatner's creative journey extended beyond acting. His music career began with The Eccentric, the Transformed Man in 1968, a spoken-word album that gained a cult following. In 2004, he surprised critics with Has Been, an album produced by Ben Folds that showcased real musical depth. One track, Common People, became an unexpected hit, and Shatner even performed it live at the Glastonbury Festival at age 74. As an author, Shatner has written over 30 books, including the best-selling Tech War series, which inspired a TV show, comics, and a video game. He has also explored the connection between science fiction and real science in I'm Working on That, where he interviewed scientists like Stephen Hawking. In 2016, Shatner released Leonard, a heartfelt memoir about his friendship with Leonard Nimoy. The book revealed their deep bond and the painful truth of their falling out before Nimoy's death, touching many fans. Even at 90, Shatner hasn't slowed down. In 2020, he released The Blues, an album featuring collaborations with well-known musicians. He reflected on his life and career in his 2022 book Boldly Go, Reflections on a Life of Awe and Wonder, which included stories about his 2021 trip to space with Blue Origin, proving that Shatner is still exploring new frontiers both on and off the screen. Shatner's love life has been as dramatic as the roles he played. He married Gloria Rand in 1956, during the early days of his acting career, and they had 3 daughters. However, their marriage began to fall apart as Star Trek's success consumed his life. They divorced in 1969, the same year the show ended. In 1973, he married Marcy Lafferty, and they shared a love for horses, breeding show horses together. Despite their divorce in 1996, their bond over horses remained strong. Shatner's third marriage was to Noreen Kidd in 1997. Though it was loving, it was also tragic. Shatner tried to help Noreen with her struggles with alcoholism, but in 1999 she tragically drowned in their swimming pool, with alcohol and Valium in her system. Shatner later started a foundation to help women fighting addiction in her honor. In 2001, Shatner married Elizabeth Martin, and their relationship seemed stable for almost 20 years. They divorced in 2020, but a few years later they reconciled and were living together again by 2024. Shatner described Elizabeth as the zest of life, and they had found a way to help each other without repeating past mistakes. Despite the ups and downs in his marriages, Shatner has remained close to his daughters, who remember him as a hands-on dad. All 3 daughters have appeared in small roles in Star Trek-related projects, following in his footsteps. Shatner also takes great joy in being a grandfather, cherishing the time spent with his grandchildren, sharing stories, and making lasting memories. Through all the heartbreak and happiness, William Shatner's life is a story of resilience. Even at 93, he embraces love and family, proving that it's never too late to start a new chapter.